2001, the year that gave us Devil May Cry, Silent Hill 2, Super Smash Bros. Melee, Grand Theft Auto 3, and among all these heavy hitters, a relatively unknown late-in-life release for the Game Boy Color, Resident Evil Gaiden. And now that's Gaiden, not Gaiden. I have no idea how you guys got Ninja Gaiden, which, to be fair, as a kid I didn't know it was called that. I just called it Shadow Warriors because that's what my cartridge said. Why haven't I heard of this game, I hear some of you ask. It's part of a major horror franchise, and it's on one of the best-selling platforms of all time. Well, that's a question with a two-part answer. The first is easy. This initially came out in December 2001, a full 9 months after the Game Boy Advance hit the market. The second is more complex. This game's development is a bit of an odd one. For a start, development was handled externally. Like most spin-offs, Capcom gave the reins to somebody else. In this case, it was Virgin Interactive, best known for making some very obscure ports, and M4 Studios, best known for Mary, Kate and Ashley games. That said, as an insurance policy, Capcom sent out both Shinji Mikami, director of Resident Evil 1, and Hiroki Kato, sorry if I mispronounced that, director of Resident Evil Code Veronica. With these two leading, it should be, well, you know, a good time. It should have been a golden release. But it wasn't at all. In fact, this game's production is somewhat of a famous mess. It took way too long, and Capcom refused requests to begin anew on the GBA, insisting on sticking to their goal of a Game Boy Color title. Plus, apparently, a language barrier between the Japanese VIPs and British developers M4 did not help at all, leaving us with a non-canonical mess with an infamous reputation. I can't think of any other way to demonstrate how much of a mess this game is, other than to play it, so here goes nothing. By the way, did you know that the term Gaiden means side story? The original idea here was that this was going to launch a series of spin-offs and what-if stories. Clearly though, it fell completely flat on its face. Even though fangirl favourite Leon S. Kennedy is the only character on the box, our main protagonist today is Barry Burton from Resident Evil 1, made famous the world over for this tasty line.
You were almost a Jill sandwich.
Barry here is now working with an underground group, fighting Umbrella head-on in an attempt to take them down once and for all. Let me get this straight. We're taking down a company turned terror organisation, playing as what can best be described as a cop turned member of a private militia. Who wrote this script? Ollie North? In his briefing, Barry is told that a new kind of bioorganic weapon, shortened to just BOW, has escaped from Umbrella's laboratory and is now among the passengers of the luxury cruise ship, Starlight. This, to my memory, is the first usage of the term BOW in a Resident Evil game. I might be wrong, but I think this, in 2001, is the first time it was heavily spoken. I know, of course, it was used in Resident Evil 5, which came out 8 years later, but if this indeed was the first time it was used, then a non-canon spin-off game affected the entire franchise permanently. Maybe not for the better, though. Also, Leon was sent in before Barry and is now missing, making this both a bug hunt and a rescue mission. One helicopter ride later, and Barry is aboard the Starlight. Or at least that's supposed to be Barry. The figure in the cutscene and the headshot in the Totally Not a Metal Gear codec looks like him, but this avatar looks more like Chris Redfield, or to be honest, Solid Snake without the bandana. Onwards, into the heart of the ship, we'll find our first enemy, and we'll also find what the game calls combat. Hold on to your butts! If you thought that the tank controls in the early games were primitive, then you ain't seen nothing yet. In combat, the game changes perspective from the overworld to a first-person view, with this hit meter across the bottom of the screen. Seems easy enough, right? Press A when the indicator is on the target, and hit the middle bit for a critical shot. The problem lies in this game having horrible input delay. You can get used to it, but it's a persistent pain in the rear intense combat. Plus, like any Resident Evil game, firearm ammo is limited and you end up relying on your knife a ton, so early on expect to die a lot. You think you'll have a perfect press, but nope, the delay ruins your timing and you end up as zombie chow.
Hit or miss? I guess you never hit, huh? That hurt my soul a lot.
Hello, fellow kids!
It took me about 7 minutes to die there, so let's try again. And this time, I survived the entrance hall of the boat only to wander around aimlessly. The game doesn't really give much direction as far as an objective, and naturally you just explore around the ship and find zombies, locked doors, and weird items. Naturally, all signs point to a simple fact: you need a guide.
I just want to say that there are a handful of guides out there, but most of them are incomplete, or, grammatically speaking, most of them are absolute train wrecks. Now, I did manage to find one that was both readable and complete, but whoever wrote it clearly hates people. Seriously, look at this. It's time to save. Do so! Somebody got less than I did on their people skills test. Not saying a lot.
During your exploring, you're going to find a key or two, and without thinking, I tried opening up several of the closed doors to no avail. Eventually, I was left scratching my head. Surely this has to be right. This is what the guide said. Well, as it turns out, the game went backwards on even the original PS1 game. To use the key, you have to have it in your inventory, select it, and then use it while stood next to the appropriate closed door. This might not seem like a huge deal, but in any other Resident Evil game, you would simply walk up to the door with the appropriate key in your bag and instantly use it, wasting no time in menus. It's a simple quality of life piece of programming, and even with these two assholes here leading, the game messed it up.
Maybe this line of thought is what led to the evil within. Better known as my cinematic horror game with black bars locked at 30 frames per second, even on PC. Yeah, that one's not making me any friends at Bethesda.
Here's another thing that bothers me. The cruise ship layout itself. Anyone who's been on an actual ship will tell you that areas like this are very, very rare. And what you normally get on boats are long, winding corridors, either lined with entertainment, cabins, or services. This looks more like a very small hotel, with every room being nearly the same. Seriously, second and first class are indistinguishable from each other. Well, first class at least gets pillows, second class gets severe neck pain for life.
As is the natural order in a civilized society.
Right, so I've covered the gameplay, the map, the horrible interface. I suppose I should finally tackle the meat of the story. Or rather, the skinny, unwanted, shriveled up, malformed bottom of the bag chicken nugget that this game calls a story. Like I said in the introduction, Barry is sent aboard to investigate the loose BOW and locate his missing comrade Leon. However, instead of Leon, he first encounters a lost girl, Lucia, who has a nasty habit of attracting this thing, the new BOW, which just so happens to be a tyrant with the ability to shapeshift. Is it me, or does it look a bit like Seth from Street Fighter 4? Instead of the ball thing in his stomach though, he's now got tentacles so big they'd make every anime schoolgirl in a 5-mile radius blush. Which is ironic, because when he attacks, he punches with the force of a hurricane. It turns out that Lucia has been experimented on by Umbrella and has some kind of amoeba-based parasite in her, and as a result can detect the Tyrant around the boat. taking her along for the ride, as you'd expect, only really results in trouble, and her, well, constantly being kidnapped. Though you can give her a weapon, unlike Ashley. Keep in mind, Lucia is supposed to be some kind of helpless orphan girl, but you can give her a bloody assault rifle, which she also apparently knows how to use.
See, Hideo, settle down there. Capcom did child soldiers before you did, by about 14 years.
She was originally being escorted around by Leon, but he went off and didn't come back, or something. I'll be honest, the story is so unimpressive that it barely left a dent in my memory, and I didn't bother taking down that many notes. After Lucia gets grabbed by Mr. Minase, Barry finds Leon down a hole. Okay, so to get him, we need a rope. Fair enough, but where is the rope? Barry thinks he saw one by the pool, but there isn't one here. The guide says, check the little box beside you, which is sod all help. What box are you on about? Normally when you're near an item, you get a little alert that there's something, about here, there's something you need to find and investigate. After fumbling and screaming at this game with friends on Discord, the rope was finally found in this itty bitty thing in the background that I assumed was there for decoration. Fantastic. Wonderful. Just what I wanted for Christmas. Reunited with Leon, we can see that the artist did Leon dirty. Seriously, who drew this sprite? This is Leon S. Kennedy? He looks like somebody spread his face on toast. Barry has all these hard lines that define him, while Leon gets the terrible Jesus painting restoration treatment.
Do you hear that? That's the sound of a million angry fangirls on DeviantArt putting down their slash fix and picking up their pitchforks.
Also, zombies now have crowbars and can hit you from further away. Just because, this game doesn't just want to be unplayable with input delay, it wants to test your patience beyond reality, which is shockingly impressive for a game that takes about 5 hours to beat. Either way, with Leon in tow, everyone gets reunited and, oh no, Barry is a traitor. No, come back. He takes Lucia to an umbrella submarine and leaves Leon alone on the boat to deal with a tedious boredom and a zombie holding a key that won't spawn until you reload the game. At least now, alone with Leon, there's a hilarious glitch with the game's most powerful weapon, the gas launcher. Instead of fighting the zombies, you can press start and instead go to run, assuming you hit the target marker in the dead center. However, if you do this but have the gas launcher equipped, the game bugs out and acts like you fired it and kills everything on screen, without using any of its precious ammo.
Is this cheating? Maybe. Do I care? No. This game is rare and expensive, and so far I feel pretty damn ripped off. So I figure it's time to fight fire with fire. Or rather, it's time to fight bad game design with bad game design.
God, I'm so close to this being over. The end is just a series of fights with the Tyrant that gets progressively harder. First, with just Leon, you take it on. Then it turns out that Barry was a triple crosser and used Umbrella to get the Tyrant sensing parasite out of Lucia, which it turns out was the BOW that they wanted back. They have no clue about the Tyrant on board, yet the intel briefing earlier clearly said that it has green blood, which it does.
I would make a witty comment about plot holes, but at this point I'm so mentally done. I just want out, man! I just want out!
Barry forces the Umbrella lot at gunpoint to get the parasite out, something happens, and zombies on the submarine. Okay, whatever. Barry, learn how to drive a sub in 5 minutes and get us back to the Starlight, will ya? Thanks. Back on board, they find Leon, who is surprisingly pleased to see them because, yeah, that's not Leon, it's the Tyrant again. Whoopsie! Gotta rinse and repeat the same fight because it's easier than actually trying. finally reunited with the real Leon, who is, as you'd expect, rather miffed at the whole double-crossing turn triple-crossing baloney, the trio make a desperate run through the burning ship. When I say burning, of course, I don't actually mean burning in any way that's interesting. I just mean a few fires to block the easiest path to the ship's bow to force you to go the long way around.
Hooray for last-minute game padding!
Safe? Nah, suddenly there's 2 Lucias because, don't forget, the Tyrant can shapeshift. The real Lucia proves that she has red blood, and now it's final boss time. It's the Tyrant. Again. For God. At least it mutates a bit more now and has a long-range attack by firing its nails at you. It's not difficult, but I had to try a few times since I was so worn down for resources. With the beast dead, everyone lives happily ever after. Lucia goes off with Barry, and Leon gets his much-needed lip reduction surgery. But wait! Oh no! Leon is bleeding green. So that means...
That means this game is a non-canon waste of time and an even bigger waste of $80. Now, mercifully, I got my copy a few years ago and didn't pay anywhere near that, but I still want my money back. Funny thing, when I was a kid, I saw this in Woolworths and my mum would not let me buy it. She was pretty strict about games within a certain age rating. You know what, secretly I knew. It wasn't that it was going to be too much for my infant mind, it was that she didn't want to hear me complain about it like a little bitch for 5 hours. I don't know. Maybe my money would have been better invested in one of those hipster startup companies like, what's that new one? Oh, Quibi! Yeah, the company that just blew $2 billion because it didn't know that nobody in their right mind wants to binge watch shows on their smartphone. Good night!